So this is going to serve as a follow-up to my previous video on the FX floorboard that you can see right here. And I'm going to clarify some things that I discussed with Colin. He is the developer. And I've found out quite a bit about it. And some of it I really can't use, and some of it I can. But I know one thing I need to do right now. I need to shrink this down to make it fit properly within the window. Okay, so there we go. So we got it all in there now. That's good. So as I was saying, I talked with Colin and a discussion board on SourceForge, and he explained some stuff to me. Now, he did explain that if you do download this and you read the README file, you'll find out that there's like 25 different versions of this. And it was developed under one original platform and then kind of developed into all these other ones. So for the Katana now, I'm going to look over here. And this loader over here, now because I don't know jack about MIDI, he was explaining it to me that the loader is for using a MIDI foot controller in like a live setting. He goes on to say, due to the lack of current documentation, there may be some confusion about the loader. The MIDI patch loader is a function which extends the Katana from 8 channels, the regular 8 channels right there in the panel, to up to 128 channels for live use with a MIDI foot controller. Now you can open a live set patch bundle. These are his words. You can open a live set patch bundle into the loader section and insert add function. It's still a bit buggy. That's what he said. And plug in a MIDI foot controller. And there are MIDI foot controllers out there that are actually pretty cheap. And you can use them and control them with a cell phone and stuff. And you can use a MIDI foot controller to select patches and load up live via MIDI program change or on a PC. You might also notice there are 16 global assign buttons in the screen too. These can set up any MIDI continuous controller to control any Katana patch function or parameter using up to 16 MIDI assign controls at the same time. These MIDI control assigns can be used in addition to the Katana controller assign function. The whole loader function is designed for live use with MIDI foot controller. That makes sense, and I would probably never use it. He says no matter where the patch data comes from, file or from Katana channel or editor, the data is transferred into a special memory area in the Katana called temporary memory, which is the Katana scratch pad memory interface to the AMP DSP function. When the loader function is used to select and load in a patch file, this is where the data goes. When a channel is saved into Katana, this data is copied to that channel memory, or if it's saved to file, a copy is converted to Katana patch format and saved to file. Now he says for the difference in BTS patch files, which I was discussing a second ago, the FX Floorboard editor utilizes extended parameters which are in the Katana, but hidden from user view on the amp and in Boss Tone Studio. That means in our Boss Tone Studio and our amp, we have some functions that are hidden from us, and some people call them sneaky amps. Well, over here, you've got a bunch of different ones, and you'd be able to see those as well if you looked in, if you got the Katana Library mobile app. So he says, an example is the preamp gain in BTS. The range is seen as 0 to 100, where in the actual internal number, it's 20 to 100. The Katana is actually capable of a gain range of 0 to 120, so FX Floorboard displays this as negative 25 to 0 and 1 to 100 and 101 to 120. It's getting a little more complicated. Same goes for the boosted drive, but all of the parameters should be in a 1-to-1 compared to Tone Studio. But the signal change is an oddity, as Boss and Tone Studio have cut the chain function quite a bit compared to what the AMP DSP is capable of. And Tone Studio can actually display the fixed chain orders different to the actual chain data from the amp. FX Floorboard can save custom chain orders, and Tone Studio can display only the nearest match. So you get more functions out of this. It's still a little bit buggy here and there maybe, but if you want to create your own patches within it, that's great. It's always nice having this option. So I don't feel like I gave the FX Floorboard, because I know a lot of people use it, I don't think I gave it a fair shake in that first video. And I was maybe a little bit critical of something that I didn't know enough about. And perhaps I should have reached out before I even made that video. Not perhaps. I should have reached out before I even made that video and talked to him about the problems I was having. That way, when I went to talk about it, I wouldn't look like an ass not knowing what I was doing, because that's how I kind of see it now. Anyway, he said Windows 11 has been rather problematic. We're talking about the settings now. Now, remember I talked about you come up here and these settings and preferences and you can adjust them? Well, Windows 11 and Windows 10, if you install it as administrator, even if you are an administrator, that's where it's going to help. Or if you launch it as administrator, open it, you right-click it, and run as administrator, then you can make the settings and they'll save. So he says with the tighter controls over what data can be written, he said it can be written to certain folders, which means that future versions of FX Floorboard will need to be installed into different folders. The current workaround is to launch the run app as run as administrator. So there you have it. That explains it a little bit more. And if you want to use a MIDI foot switch with the FX Floorboard, you can. Somebody mentioned it in a comment today, and it's made by Kuvavi. I think that's how you say it, but they've changed their name to M-Vavi, and it's called Chocolate BTS Wireless MIDI Foot Controller. And it's pretty cheap. Let me see if I can pull this over here. This is the M-Vavi MIDI controller wireless foot switch pedal with 4 foot switches. And it's programmable, and you can use it with a tablet or a phone and all sorts of good stuff. And it's cheap. If you look on Amazon, you can get it for like $30. So if MIDI's your thing and you want to play around with something like that, go for it. If you want to spend more money and just use GAFC, do whatever you want. It's your amp. Just have fun with it. But yeah, there's a more of a fair assessment maybe and a rundown of the FX Floorboard. I hope this helps clarify some things from my last video. If you haven't seen my last video, I'll link it up there, and you can check that out and see what I was talking about. But take it with a grain of salt. All right, we'll see you next time.